Sun Dragon, the youngest of all dragons, its scales covered in bright colors of orange and yellow, exuding an aura as fiery as the blazing flames in its heart. An absolute force of nature with its burning dragon breaths that blasts its enemies to oblivion, while in melee it can tear down opponents with its fangs and claws, and of course, using that big fat tail to beat down anyone who dares to challenge its might. Hello everyone, this is Tactical Lich here, and welcome to another episode of Total War Warhammer 2 Online Multiplayer Replay. So yes, today we'll be rocking a Sun Dragon build with a Mage of Fire riding the Mighty Dragon. The reason why I bring the Sun Dragon today is, first of all, it's a really nice melee combatant with solid all-round stats, not as good as the older dragons like the Star Dragon, but still pretty decent all-round. Come in with also flaming attacks being buffed by stuff like Kindle Flame from Teclis and the Fire Mage. It will get some damage buff whenever a spell is cast. And of course, it also have a really nice Dragon Breath attack that can clear out blobs of infantry. Not as good against single entities, but come on, it's Beastmen. You mostly fight monsters and bunch of chaff gore hurts. So before the drop of the DLC, single entity sniping isn't the greatest concern right now. And even if we need to snipe Beastmen single entities, a Sun Dragon attack has enough DPS to deal with them. As for the rest of the build, we have a bunch of spearmen, a staunch line of spears basically, Swordmasters of Hoeth in the center, at the back line, White Lions of Trace protecting some Talons of Torquilata. Not the best pick in terms of infantry, as you don't really need those two-handed weapons against Beastmen, but I did pick those, so we'll have to roll with it. And at the back, a couple more Illyrian Reavers for mobility to protect against Centicles and Hounds, and in the forefront, 3 Illyrian Reaver Archers providing a lot of skirmishing capabilities. As for leadership, we have Teclis coming in with Regrowth, his potion and a net, as well as Flaming Sword of Ruin. So for the Beastmen army, a lot of Vanguard shenanigans, and exactly why I paused this battle, as we already see here, a bunch of arrows are already shooting, going into the Beastmen units in Vanguard deployment, which are 4 gore herds with shields, and at the back 4 Ungor spearmen herds. We also have a Brave Shaman of Wild and a chariot over here, and at the corners that's really the true killing power of the Beastmen are. Over on the far side, Chaos Warhounds with poison and Centicles, and over here a whole blob of Centicles, 2 Centicles regular variant, and 3 of them with throwing axes, as well as a Kazrak One-Eye Vanguard deployed. So that's basically it for the army builds. Let's get a battle started. Right at the start, the Beastmen, since they're vanguarded so closely to the High Elf line, they start pushing forward, trying to get into melee combat before suffering too much casualties from the arrows. As you can see, this Goreherd already took some pretty considerable damage from all the arrows from Illyrian Reaver Archers and Talons of Torquilata. In the meantime, in both corners, the Centicles are now moving around, trying to get into a flanking position to rush my back lines and rear charge and whatnot. And seeing 5 Centicles rushing in from this angle, I was trying to plug the gap with some Illyrian Reaver Archers, but there are just too many bodies coming in. Almost had a miscast of nets over here, but thankfully I cancelled it in last second and recast it again on top of these Centicles. Now with all the Centicles netted down, I should be able to start pouring in arrow fire to really whittle down these Centicles. Although sadly, this Illyrian Reaver unit just got broken off and the other Illyrian Reaver got swarmed by Hounds, that means they can't really get into melee combat against and pin down these Centicles. So the Reaver Archers will have to do their job, sacrificing their lives to block the Centicles. But still, a lot of effective damage is done by all the Archer units. Back to the front line, the Beastmen are still being held back by the high defense of the Spearmen units. But of course, this will no longer be the case once Martial Prowess disappears as they drop below half health. And now, at the back, the Centicles are now routing from all the fire pouring in, while the White Lions of Trace are pinning in 2 units of Centicles, as the Sun Dragon hovers over at the background, staring into the brutal combat down below as the Illyrian Reaver Archers pours their arrow fire into the blob. But wait, Kazrak One-Eye is no longer here. Let's have a quick glance at the main battle line, and we can see that he's using his massive punch through the backs of the Swordmasters, who are already heavily damaged from Vile Ties from the Brave Shaman. Now back to the Sun Dragon, who is finally down onto the ground, crushing the Centicles under his mighty wings. Although this victory does come at the cost of an Illyrian Reaver archer routing, so that's a bit of a shame. At the back, more Centaurs are coming in, although they did get netted down, so they can't perform a full frontal charge onto the talons of Torquilada. An Ice Burning Head goes down the line, roasting both units of Gorehurts, although they did burn some of my Spear and Swordmasters, but Swordmasters being highly armored should not take too much damage. It's more of a concern of these freed up Beastmen units rushing in for a rear charge, and that means they will be flanked and will be routed. Some hounds try to get into these talons of Torquilada, but with the presence of Teclas as well as the Sun Dragon rushing in to intercept, the Warhounds backed off, going after the routing Swordmasters instead. And now some freed up Gorehurts are rushing for the talons. But thankfully, despite my front lines of Spears and Swordmasters are being routed, I still have some White Lions. Yes, they're a bit beaten up, but they should still hold these Gorehurts at bay for a little bit longer, forcing them to clump up on this armored anvil of White Lions. With extra fire weakness from the talons, the Sun Dragon's breath just destroys both units of Beastmen infantry. But with Kazarak One Eye rolling in with his chariot and more Beastmen units circling around, the overwhelming odds is just too much for the White Lions to hold on to. But of course, with Kazarak One Eye dropping in, I responded with a charge from the Sun Dragon, biting a chunk out of the legendary Beast Lord's health, using the high weapon strength of a dragon with the armor piercing, did some pretty nice and irreversible damage to the leadership of Beastmen. Although I do lack the mobility to protect the backline, as on the far side some Illyrian Reavers get pushed away by Centaurs. All the Reavers are just moving away, these Reavers are pulling out, these Reavers are pulling back trying to catch the Centaurs. The High Elf forces just basically concede this engagement and just move away and pick off some separated forces of the Beastmen. And now you can see that the balance of power is clearly in favor of the Beastmen, as I'm really lacking presence in terms of infantry, cavalry, basically multi-entity units. All my balance of power are focused on a rather beat up Teclas and a Mage of Fire in the sky, who, although has no doubt a very strong melee presence against single entities, will be focused down by throwing axes and spears at the back. Over here, the Warhounds, realizing some Illyrian Reavers are hot in pursuit and chasing the further away Reavers might be a futile attempt, they decided to turn around and face their pursuers, charging straight into the Illyrian Reavers at the back. And while this is a sound idea, as one of the Reaver is very tattered and almost breaking, but with the support of more healthy Reavers and a mighty dragon dropping in, terrifying the dogs, the damage and leadership penalty is just too much for the dogs to handle, and now they're just making a break for the White Line. More Reavers are coming back after chasing down some routing units, trying to block off the Gorehurts, and separated Kazarak One Eye from the main Beastmen forces, the Gorehurts, Centaurs and whatnot. So right now, Kazarak One Eye is well and truly separated. The Sun Dragon is just feasting upon this poorly separated legendary Beast Lord, pouncing on top of his hastily assembled chariot, dealing blow after blow on the poor Kazarak One Eye. The Reavers not only separated him from reinforcements, but also using their mass to body block against Kazarak One Eye, preventing his escape, and with this one nat going down on him, there is truly no escape for him, as the one big fat tail slap from the dragon finishes him off. The Beast Lord is finally dead. On the other hand, Traitorkin is going down on these Illyrian Reaver archers. With them being so tattered, they're just dying left and right and center from the single entity damage, while the Sun Dragon pushing off the rest of the Beastmen forces, and at the far flank, Brave Shaman of Wild is just retreating, getting pushed off by Teclas, routing straight to the back line, and with Teclas hot in pursuit, he is not coming back. And now, things are getting a lot better for the High Elves, as the leadership of the Beastmen are no more, and all that's left for the Beastmen to maybe pull this back together are these Centaurs with throwing axes. But since Teclas still have quite a bit of magic left, and also they're just using all the Winds of Magic recharge from abilities and items they can get, they should be able to get some more magic to heal up the Mage of Fire and maybe Teclas himself, since he did have the potion and can be able to heal himself quite conveniently at the cost of some cooldown. So right now we have some tattered Illyrian Reaver units. The archer units are all of ammo and just cleaning up the Ungor Spearman herds with shields. These Illyrian Reaver archers trying to get a flanking maneuver, but seeing the Angkor Spearmen herd exposing themselves, they're not going to engage. At the back, there are some forgotten Angkor Spearmen herd. These guys are desperately needed in the middle of the engagement to provide all the bodies they can get to fend off all the dragon and tacklers, while the Centaurs will be dishing out the damage with their flooring axes as they are pinned down by Angkor Spearmen herd. Just a bit of Miss Micro right there. But yeah, right now the attacking rule is still fulfilled, as I was pushing my Illyrian Reaver units to attack the Gore herds, while my single entities are just taking axes to the face, and all the Illyrian Reaver units now coming out from tree line, rushing straight for this Centaur unit, who is still very much healthy. But right now, being pinned down by the net, unable to escape, the Sun Dragon comes in for another charge, pouncing on top of these Centaurs, feasting on their mutated bodies, crushing them with its majestic wings and cleansing these beastly abominations from the old world once and for all. And with that, these originally very healthy Centaur unit just got routed at the cost of some routing Illyrian Reaver archers, as they cannot take any more from the beating from the throwing axes. This one last Illyrian Reaver archer unit also get routed, being surrounded by spearmen and whatnot, but at this point, the balance of power is truly in the favor of the High Elves, as all that's left are some Angkor Spearmen herd, and now a Burning Head coming down along the line, using that burnt effect, dropping their leadership and terrifying them, forcing them to rout. With all the units in rout, army losses is hit for the Beastmen. These Centaurs cannot hold their leadership together, and this Angkor Spear herd also routed. And that's the end of the game, and the High Elves claim the victory. Now let's have a look at the army performances. For the High Elf army, the infantry were not really doing too much, as they were mostly there to hold back the enemy, and the two-handed weapons on the Swordmasters and White Lions are basically a waste against the unarmored infantry of Beastmen. Basically, they did a good job holding the line, but not a lot of damage output. However, this does allow my missile damage to really dish out the damage, as a lot of my Reaver archers mostly did very well, and these Talons of Turgulata getting 1300 value. The melee Reavers though did not do too well, as they get focused down by the Chaos Warhounds due to my mistake in the early game, and this one getting overwhelmed by Centaurs, but of course they came back afterwards and actually cleaned up some tattered units from the Beastmen, so good on them, recovering most of their value. Leadership wise, Tackless didn't do too much, as his role is mostly to support, to net down enemies, and to heal. The Mage of Fire though, definitely the breadwinner of this game, supported by Kindle Flame from Tackless, as well as the flammable effect of the Talons of Turgulata. The Fire Breaths and Burning Heads managed to clear out hundreds of Beastmen, showcasing the true power of a Sun Dragon with Fire Magic. And that is why I feel like the Fire Mage plus Sun Dragon combo can be a great option. By combining the melee power of the Sun Dragon and the tactical options of a Fire Mage, first of all, the Fire Mage won't be as susceptible to melee attacks, as it has the survivability of a Fire Dragon. Secondly, the Sun Dragon won't be constrained by the restrictions on breath attacks before clearing out blobs. With breath attacks, you need to fly up in the sky, disengage from all melee combat before actually putting a fire breath into your enemy. But with a Fire Mage on top of the Sun Dragon, you can just drop a Burning Head anytime anywhere around yourself, as long as you have the Winds of Magic, and clear out the enemy blob. Just like in the end, Burning Head went down on some tattered Angkor herds. That basically gave a burnt effect and terrified the Angkor herds away, winning the game, sealing the deal for the High Elves. As for the Beastmen player, one mistake basically cost them the game. The Kazarak and Bray Shaman chariots actually managed to do a lot of damage to my infantry, rolling them over, and especially the Bray Shaman with the Vile Tide blasting my Swordmasters and Spearmen. However, being caught out, isolated from the main forces, basically destroyed Kazarak One Eye, with the Sun Dragon pouncing onto him, smashing him into the dirt. Things basically went downhill for the Beastmen from there. What the Beastmen player could have done was probably throw in some skirmishing cavalry, the remaining Centaurs, to body block for Kazarak, allow him to extract himself from that kind of sticky situation, and look for a more favorable fight somewhere else. And with the loss of leadership, the low leadership of Beastmen units just simply can't hold up. For the Beastmen infantry, most of them didn't manage to recover their value, as they just get roasted by the breath attacks and burning hats from the Sun Dragon and Fire Mage. Most of the damage actually comes in the form of Centaurs with throwing axes, all of them earning well over 1000 damage value. In contrast, the melee mobility didn't really do too much here, as the lack of armor on these guys means that they take full damage from all the arrow fire I dump on them with my archers and Illyrian Reaver archers. So that's basically it for today's replay. I hope you enjoyed, and if you do, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. I will be regularly uploading content on tips and strategies for multiplayer or wild builds or just general battle replays. So be sure to subscribe to keep yourself up to date on future content. And if you have some replays that you are particularly proud of and want to showcase, feel free to drop by my Discord or send me an email with the replay attached, and I'll be sure to look at it and see if I can make a video out of it. So yeah, that's basically it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.